Welcome to the News9 Plus Show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. Here are the top 9 headlines. In Qatar, the Indian envoy has met the ex-Navy men on death row for the first time. Consular access was granted days within Prime Minister meeting Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani at the COP28 summit in Dubai on December the 1st. The former Navy personnel are facing a death sentence for alleged espionage. Israel continues its bombardment of the Gaza Strip. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu threatened large-scale devastation in Beirut and southern Lebanon if Hezbollah opens a second front in Israel's war with Hamas. The United States has imposed sanctions on 13 individuals and entities for allegedly funneling tens of millions of dollars to Yemen's Houthi group from the sale and shipment of Iranian commodities. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia has asked the US to show restraint in responding to attacks by Yemen's Houthis against ships in the Red Sea as Riyadh seeks to contain a spillover from the Hamas-Israel war. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has appealed to his Conservative Party colleagues to back his plan to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. Sunak is facing the biggest challenge to his year-long tenure as he tries to stop lawmakers on the party's right wing from rebelling against their demand that Britain should quit international treaties to set its own migration policy. Armenia and Azerbaijan have announced they will exchange prisoners of war and work towards normalizing relations. The two countries have been locked in a decades-long conflict over Nagorno-Karabakh, which Azerbaijan reclaimed after an offensive against Armenian separatists in September. After Sri Lanka and Malaysia, Indonesia is considering visa-free entry for Indians. Indians are one of the biggest tourist spenders in Asia. Russian President Vladimir Putin has heaped praise on Prime Minister Modi, saying he cannot be intimidated or forced to take decisions contrary to national interests. This is the third time this year the Russian president has praised Prime Minister Modi. Meanwhile, India's stock markets continue to soar with the Nifty 50 and Sensex indices reaching all-time highs. The RBI has kept key interest rates unchanged for the fifth consecutive time. The benchmark index Nifty breached the 21,000 level for the first time ever. India has maintained its status as the world's fastest growing major economy with a GDP growing at 7.6% in the second quarter. A year ago, Bollywood's epitaph was written. A series of flops spelled doom. But while Bollywood was tanking, the South was rising. Films like Pushpa, KGF and Vikram not only raised the bar for audiences, but also broke the box office. And then something interesting happened this year. After a series of Bollywood flops comes a series of Bollywood blockbusters which rewrote the script. Jawan, Pathan, Gadar 2, it's the most profitable year for Bollywood ever. Over 11,000 crore at the box office. Bollywood, it seems, has discovered its animal spirits. And along comes this film called Animal. Sandeep Reddy Vanga's film is this year's monster hit. But more than that, it's also divided public opinion. Joining me to discuss this box office beast, this animal, is Ram Gopal Varma, a director who's no stranger to controversy. He's literally birthed a new wave in the Hindi cinema industry. Ramu Garu, welcome to the News9 Plus Show.
Hi Sandeep, hi.
The highest grossing A-starrer of all time, Animal has gratuitous violence, misogyny, multiple bad characters. There are calls for it to be banned. Has Sandeep Reddy gone where even Ram Gopal Varma has feared to tread?
See, there are 2 points to it, what you're asking me. See, one is, I don't think I've ever done something anywhere near. See, though I might have made realistic films and things, I still pretty much followed a template. Like there is a hero, there's a good, there's a bad, there's a villain, and there is a certain moral aspect to it. I think more or less, if you take my first film Shiva or Company or Sarkar, all of them had that. What Sandeep has done, I think he just destroyed it. He just threw it into the trash can, to be more correct, you know. So now the question is whether that should be done, whether that should have been done, or is it correct to do that? Is the whole point, because most of the time human beings, they want to be in a comfort zone. They just follow what they've been told at a certain point of time, and someone suddenly steps aside or takes a U-turn or comes in an opposite direction, it disorients you, kind of. That is what a rebel does. If someone is fighting the establishment, he's called a rebel, and Sandeep Reddy is that.
Right.
So I think which is the reason why, like what you were mentioning, there's so much of divided opinion. People who love animal, people who hate animal. People are calling to have criminal action against the director. Some people are going to that extent. And today I heard some member of parliament also has raised an objection. But all that proves one point. Why? What proves that point is, like the filmmaker Editor Sandeep said, a really effective film is not about being liked or disliked. It should be discussed, debated, and argued about in terms of both support and anti this thing. That is what, and I don't remember the last time a film has done.
Right.
Now the interesting point is all the people who are talking, they could be just in maybe a couple of hundred, or maybe if you don't take all the tollers into account, But the film's tremendous box office is proving, one is it has got the disadvantage of too long a film, and then which is eating into show timings, which means lesser number of shows, and then there's a A certificate. And violence generally is believed by the film industry that it will keep the family audience off the theatres. Against all those odds, if it is more or less going to be the biggest hit of all time, the way the numbers and the speed at which it is going, now the interesting question is, Sandeep has made the film for the audience and they seem to be loving it. Now, who are the couple of hundred people who have a problem with that? That is the point.
But I read your, and that's true. It's an adult-rated film, and it's the highest-grossing adult-rated film of all time in the industry.
Not even highest-rated adult film of all time. It is for sure going to cross every film what you mentioned just now.
Right.
The collections are going to cross all that.
And
it's not just about. It is a hit in A. It is a hit in UA, U and everything.
Right. I was in college when Shiva came out, and we all remember, we were all looking at each other when the character bends down and picks up that cycle chain, and the kind of violence that we saw over there. And then many years later, when we saw Satya, I remember the best review of Satya came from a friend of mine in UP, where he says that, Bhai, he's got the sound of the gunshot absolutely right. Guns to aise bachte. Thack. It's never dishke, it's thack. And then you have a film like this, which is like a Quentin Tarantino moment. Isn't this a Quentin Tarantino moment that Bollywood is going through?
Yeah, I would probably the nearest, but I would also somewhere put even Scorsese in that, because for me the protagonist, the last time I saw a character with the director himself is not being judgmental about his Wolf of Wall Street, of Leonardo DiCaprio's character, where is immoral, this is bad, but yet you're fascinated to see him for the whatever time is on the screen. So I would like to think it's a mix of Scorsese and Tarantino.
Right. And now you have Swanand Kirkare, who said that this film will determine the future of Indian cinema afresh in a different, terrible and dangerous direction. Why? I mean, the difference between all the other films that we've mentioned is this character is evil. I mean, and I think one of the titles that Sandeep Reddy was discussing for this was, I think it was called Devil or Demon or something like that. So this fascination with a morbid character like this.
I mean, I don't like the word morbid, I would agree with. But the whole point here is there are two things. Art is eventually a reflection of society,
right.
And it can be one way, like art follows life, or life follows art, the age-old thing which goes on. Now, I have a problem with what Swanand said. See, the point is, who is going to you make a film? For example, one of the most successful films of all time is Sholay.
Yeah.
Now, people loved Gabbar Singh. They saw it multiple times, mainly for Gabbar Singh during those days. Now, Gabbar Singh is evil. He cuts off the cop's hands, he kills the massacres of family.
Yeah.
Which basically means you're creating an entertainment. No one really takes a film seriously to emulate it, which I think is nonsense.
Right.
See, like, it's not like when you saw Mad Max, nobody started bloody going on bikes in high speed and getting killed in accidents.
Yeah, but
Sholay is the biggest hit. No one became a dacoit. Just because Satya did work, no one became a gangster. So I think it's like a stupid argument to say that a film can influence.
Yeah, but
at the most it can influence in emulating a hairstyle, emulating some clothes,
right?
Not the context, or the content,
Ramuji, the line that cinema often mirrors society. Now, just last Friday, exactly a week ago, you have a fairly well-made film on Sam Manekshaw. He's an iconic Indian soldier. That film makes just 38 crore. It's a good, well-made film, very well regarded, 38 crore. And you have a film on a toxic gangster that makes 500 crore. So what is the cultural shift that this cinema is,
I personally don't
signifying?
think there's been a shift. See, always, a film is supposed to create an emotion, and it to provoke an emotion which is real and within all of us, which is not what patriotism is about. Patriotism is an emotion which is thrust upon us for a social purpose.
Right.
Violence, fear, or fascination or an excitement, they are very instinctive things, which is there in everyone. Like there's a dialogue in Company, is har aadmi ke andar ek rakshas hota hai.
Yeah.
And waqt aane par wo bahar aata hai. So the basic point is he catered to that. Like, why are people fascinated with scandals and violence and terror attacks? When you take up a newspaper, nobody reads about the GDP growth and what's happening in terms of you're more interested in the atom bomb compared to what the Baba Atomic Research Center does.
Right.
So that's instinctive in human beings because they're primarily animals.
Right.
But it is our upbringing, fear of law, discipline of religion or our society and all that, we kind of curb it and we keep it hidden inside. We won't even say to ourselves that animal exists. Right. And what Sandeep has done, he just kind of left it open.
But
yes, now
Ramuji,
it is true. Yeah.
Now, about patriotism, Gadar also was a huge hit, right? Made over 500 crore, and that also kind of appealed to the patriotic sentiments. So
but I don't agree that it is a hit because of the patriotism. I don't think films work on concepts. Films work on the engaging power of whether it's the actors or the scenes or whatever. Like there could be some other film where probably talks against patriotism, even that can work. That we don't know. For example, in Telugu, N.T. Ramarao did a film which actually made Kauravas the hero and Pandavas the villains, and that is a blockbuster hit in 1980s. So I think it is about the conviction of the director and the way he presents, which kind of convinces the audience is which makes a film a hit.
This was Ramuji. This was
back to the example.
Danveer Karna, right? NTR's film where Karna is Danveer Karna. I've seen that. Yeah, it's a great film. Yes. He plays multiple roles in that.
Yeah, but he plays the main guy. He made hero is Duryodhan. First time, only time it happened,
But talking of Duryodhans, now one big criticism of the film, why a lot of critics have hated, is the fact that the misogyny in this film, right? And I was just looking at the NCRB data. Now, crimes against women have increased. There's a 4% increase in crimes against women. 4 lakh cases have been registered. Cruelty by husbands or relatives, is the predominant factor, 31% of cases. And you have a film like Animal that kind of glorifies this. You have a guy who's, abusing his wife, carrying on with extramarital affairs. There's nothing really nice about him. He's not a family man. So aren't we glorifying?
My point, first of all, I don't agree with the word glorifying. The fact is, he showed a certain character, a set of characters, the way they are. Now, are we saying they don't exist? Of course, we know. The answer to that you gave me just now, quoting all the statistics. Now, he is telling the story of one such set of people.
Right.
Okay. One such kind of a guy. Now, what you think or don't think about that person is an individual choice of any guy sitting in the theater. Which is what it amounts to. Now, each of them have their own individuals, and you can't generalize them by making a statistical number of how many lakhs of people are getting affected. What I do not agree with is somebody will see Animal and then they will become that, like that. That is an inherent thing in that person and the set of circumstances around those people, you know. Now, why would someone actually would have fallen in love in the first place with a person like that, you know?
Right.
It's not that he ever kept it a secret, the kind of person, he never lied to her. It's very, very evident the kind of a character Ranvijay is, you know. So I think if you are telling the story of such people, whether reading about something like that in a newspaper or hearing a report in a news channel, all of them are eventually a part of life, what's happening around. And this just happens to be the story he told of people like that. And which is what I said, he's not being judgmental. He's not
Right.
saying independently he's a bad guy. He's just telling his story, which is what Scorsese did in Wolf of Wall Street.
You know, last year we had this conversation when a whole lot of South Indian films are doing exceptionally well. There's a common thread running through all of these films, you know, whether it's RRR or it's KGF, Vikram, and now Animal, is the angry young man. You know, all of these characters are angry, they're negative. So is this in a sense the rediscovery, the return of the angry young man?
No, it's not true. I'll tell you why. See, actually, South cinema predominantly always, right from the beginning, was copying Bollywood in the context of the so-called angry young man.
Right.
Most of N.T. Ramarao and Rajnikant and or Chiranjeevi, all these guys were doing remakes of Amitabh Bachchan's films of the 70s, you know. And at some point of time, when in the 90s, when the music companies came, like Tips and T-Series and all that, they started making films as vehicles to sell songs, like the music, you know. That is when a new wave came in Hindi industry, they changed and they stopped making the angry young man. And the romantic heroes like Shah Rukh, Amir and Salman and Maine Pyar Kiya, those kind of films came. Pretty much it was there for the next 20 years or so before Amir experimented with Ghajni and Salman with Wanted. Right. That also they thought it was just a one-off the thing. But what really shook them, even Bahubali, because it's got an extraordinary scale, it was not taken as a conventional cinema. That is also like, it can happen once in a blue moon. But KGF 2 is what I think shook everyone. So that is not an extravaganza like what Rajamouli did, you know.
Yeah.
Then in quick succession, those films to come. So they are not returning to the angry young man. To answer your question, they always only relied upon angry young man. All South cinema never changed from that thing, which is the reason why these Pawan Kalyans and Mahesh Babus, all of them became such big stars comparatively to the thing, is because of the roles they do in these angry young man masala films.
Right.
But the masala films came back to Bollywood, like which we see it in a Jawan or a Pathan, is because they realized that the South is making bigger hits because they're following that. So they came back to Bollywood. It's not like they didn't come back to South. The South always, they were the same.
Right.
But I don't think Animal falls in that category also. Still, the masala hero or the so-called whatever you call angry young man, he works for the good. He kills only the bad. You know, he's very considerate about his love, his romance, and this and that, which is not what the case of Animal is.
So my next question.
First film,
please go ahead.
So Animal, I think, is the first film where there is no intention, neither on the story part nor on the director's part, to create an empathy for the man.
Right.
He's just being shown the way he is. There is no explanation given why he is like the way it is, and that is lame. Just to think that out of his love for the father, that he will do anything and will ready to take machine guns and hack people to death. You know, that is not an acceptable thing.
Right.
But the whole point of the film is that what if a guy like this exists? It is that story. What you're being told. Yeah.
Right. No, in fact, this point you mentioned that the South was always making these kind of films. Is Animal actually a South Indian film? It is, right? I mean, the director is from Hyderabad. No.
See, now there's another point. See, when suddenly the South tries to take credit and all that, it is Sandeep Vanga's individual mind, what he thinks of cinema, what is general opinion of society or people. So whether he was born in Karnataka or Gujarat, or wherever, he would have done the same. So the point here is to illustrate this, the South is actually more shocked than Bollywood with Animal. You know?
Okay, why is that?
I know every director I know is like shell shocked because they've never seen a film like this. So it's just a coincidence that it came from a Telugu director.
Right. No.
But if it is Sandeep Vanga's thing, it is not South film, it is Sandeep Vanga's film. It is not a Telugu film, it's not South film or anything. And knowing Sandeep as a person, I would like to believe he would do this no matter which state he came from, even if he's born in Bombay also.
But you know, Ramuji, this film and in fact a string of other films have kind of shaken our belief in what we thought was Bollywood. Bollywood back in the day when I first met you was, for me, it was pin code 40050 to 40053, which is Bandra to Andheri West, right? And now what you're seeing is, you're seeing directors coming out of, that people hadn't heard of, like Nelson Dilip Kumar, Sandeep Reddy Vanga. They're coming from south of the Vindhyas increasingly, and the biggest films, Rajamouli for instance, they're all coming from the south. So in a sense, are we looking at the birth of a new kind of cinema in India, which transcends boundaries, states, cities?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to believe that it pretty much started, maybe if you take Bahubali as the beginning and KGF kind of solidified it. But I would still like to believe, see, the point is everyone in South makes only those kind of films and not all of them work.
Right.
If you take, there is about 150 films being made in each language, in Telugu and Tamil and Kannada and Malayalam. What reached the so-called pan-India or working in Hindi, there would be hardly a handful at the end of the day, in years I'm saying. I don't think more than 1 or 2 films come in a year from there. And then apart from that, now you are talking about the directors who are from the South, because they've always been doing that. That's what I told.
Right.
You know, I don't know if a single Hindi film director in today's times, I'm not talking yesteryear times, who kind of believed in this so-called hero, masala, or this kind of catering to the front benchers and not having logic and just to create constant cinematic highs. That kind of a template is something which no one really had the conviction in Bombay, because all of them, either they are in South Bombay, they're educated and they've come from America and they don't even know what the masses are.
Right.
Interestingly, if you look at it, most of the directors in South, they're very uneducated people. That's a very interesting thing. That could be the reason they're so rooted and they know exactly what the man on the road feels, because they actually feel it, you know. So they are not so much well versed into English films and this, and that is the reason I think they understand the pulse of the masses probably more than educated guys who came and who grew up on films from Hollywood films and something like that.
Right.
But even after all this, I would still think Sandeep is again completely aside from. He's not like one more of the South directors, not at all. Right. So I would just want to repeat it once again. All the directors what you mentioned from the South, they are as shocked as anybody with Sandeep Vanga's Animal.
Okay. You know, many years ago, Anurag Kashyap, who's another person who's very rooted in the ground. He comes from, North India and a small town in North India. He told me that, my mentor is Ram Gopal Varma. A bit like Eklavya though, from a distance. But I couldn't help but notice this bromance that you've had with Sandeep Reddy on X, formerly Twitter. So who's the heir to Ram Gopal Varma's cinema, the Ram Gopal Varma formula of filmmaking? Is it Anurag Kashyap or Sandeep Vanga?
I would think Anurag is more closer to Sandeep, in terms of probably, I would like to believe, to say it in a cliche, I think Sandeep is a highly commercial version of Anurag Kashyap, I would think, because the darkness of the film, the darkness of the characters, and very in the face kind of trying to, which is something I've never done actually, So I would like to believe, I don't want the hair is first of all a very wrong example, because like I already said, I always followed a template. There's nothing original I did. I probably mixed Ardha Satyas and maybe Kalyug of Shyam Benegal, also with some mainstream films of Amitabh
Godfather.
Bachchan. That is what I have done. There's nothing original or new what I've done. But I think Animal is completely original in every which way. You know, I might have issues because that is what the whole point is. I might have issues on my sensibility of what I think a film should be.
Right.
But the truly original film ever came from Indian cinema, I believe, is Animal, which is not what I made any of them. All of them were just a kind of a slightly hybrid versions of what already has been working on a template level.
Right. Ramoji, I don't know of any other director in the industry, in any industry, would be as modest as that, as you have been.
And that is the truth. I don't think I'm being modest. And I'm also proving it by giving examples to you.
Absolutely.
I know exactly from where I took each film of mine. So there's nothing original
but
in what I did. Yeah.
Coming back to Animal, I mean, I detected a lot of Godfather in that. There's a lot of Scarface in that. And like you've pointed out yourself, he's made Sonny the hero, and Michael, is a lesser character than that. So Godfather continues to be...
That for me is a very interesting point. I remember, when you're reading a book or when you're actually watching a film, you kind of take the characters the way they're given to us and how much of them are being shown in the length of the role and their importance to the story. So many of those factors will help you make a final decision. Now, I remember a line in Godfather, in a chapter when he describes a character called Luca Brasi. And he says, from 1935 to 1937, the name of Santino Corleone sent shockwaves through the underworld. But even he, in sheer terror, was eclipsed by an awesome man called Luca Brasi. Now the line, if you take from 1930 the name of Santino sent shockwaves through the underworld, that kind of a description was never there in Francis Coppola's Godfather.
Right.
But the Don was always scared of his elder son. He was just very scared of how he's going to deal. And when his father, there's an attack on Don Corleone, the way Sonny just wants to go all out and kill all the 5 families immediately, that reminds me of Ram Vijay in this film, in Animal. Now when I asked Sandeep, did you read the novel Godfather? He said, I didn't read a single book in my life. So that is fine. I mean, I am not saying that he's lying or anything, but the point is, the whole point of why Godfather resonates so much, it happens everywhere. It is like in every family, in every village, in every town, all over the world, which is the reason it had that kind of a resonance. And the point of Scarface, what you mentioned, which is also true, because it is like you are taking Tony Montana from Scarface and you either made him Michael Corleone, or you threw Michael Corleone out into the trash bin and made Sonny Corleone the protagonist. You can look at it both these ways. Yeah.
No, in fact, that one scene that struck me when I saw the film was that you have this thing when Al Pacino comes out, all guns blazing, So there he has an underbarrel, in Scarface.
Yes.
In fact, Tony Montana.
Here
you have a humongous rotary cannon.
It is shot. Also, it resembles it. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So in this one you have this. Yes.
Another thing I'll tell you, when Connie Corleone suspects that Michael was behind her husband's death, she accuses him, and he doesn't say anything. He doesn't accept the fact, and he doesn't tell his wife also whether he did it or not. Here, the fact he comes and tells her that I killed your husband. And after she beats him up, and he says that your problem was you shouldn't have married him in the first place. That was a very, very new take on the Godfather scene, And so, I mean, there is no such thing as it has to be like this or not. It is eventually what your interpretation, what Sandeep believes what a character will do, which is what the difference in various films and various stories.
Right, and it's a case of great minds all thinking alike. But Ramuji, what about Ram Gopal Varma, the filmmaker? I've seen this trailer for your film Vyuham that's coming out. It's on Jagan Mohan Reddy, interestingly. And there have been reports that this is your last film. Is this a fact, or are you...
No. That is my last political film. Because I made quite a few political films in terms of biopics of leaders. So I just said that in some context. And also said that political films have a tendency to work just before the elections,
Right.
And the fact that elections are again 5 years away, so I'll be doing other films, not political. That is what I said actually in that context.
Right. So you are very much part of the film industry, whether north or south. You're still around for many, many more years.
Yeah.
And what subject are you working on next? Anything that's caught your fancy?
I'm working on something. I'll tell you the details in some. Yeah.
Right.
Post the release of Vyuham. Yeah.
Right. Ramu Garu, thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Ministers, political commissars, a foreign minister, an IT minister, there's literally a long list of dignitaries and government officials vanishing from Xi Jinping's government. Aditya, what's going on behind the bamboo curtain?
Well, you know that Xi Jinping doesn't trust people a lot.
Right.
And with the autocratic ways that he has, many people have their own ambitions.
Yeah.
Many people have their contacts beyond the Chinese territory, be it personal relations or professional. And that has been the case. And this is not new. This has been happening for a very long time. We saw the case of the founder of Alibaba actually disappearing
Jack Ma
completely.
last year, vanishing.
Jack Ma disappeared. And then we had the foreign minister who allegedly had a relationship with someone, and that's why he couldn't be trusted. He completely vanished, and then he was dismissed. And then we had the defense minister also disappearing completely, and we have had multiple generals in the Chinese PLA also disappearing similarly. This clearly indicates the kind of centralization of power that is very much visible in China. And Xi Jinping is very much aware that his power, his control, his mannerisms could be checked, and there could be some internal rebellion underworks as well by some generals, by some politicians and otherwise, and that's why his reaction, the consequences are swift. So immediately when the foreign minister was seen hobnobbing with somebody who is from some other country, he was immediately dismissed, and there were fears that there could be some angle of espionage, spying as well, because United States was concerned at that particular time. So it's abundantly clear that particular time. So it's abundantly clear that Xi Jinping doesn't want to lose out on power at a crucial time when China is being actually spoken against a lot. This is a time when the Quad and the Indo-Pacific is being spoken about, and he's recently come from a visit to the United States as well. But clearly this is not the first, and this is certainly not the end of it. Perhaps in the months and years from now, we'll continue to see such kind of events.
In fact, as they say, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown, and it's more so in the case of Xi Jinping. In fact, Deepak Badana has decoded this long laundry list of ministers and government officials who are vanishing from Xi Jinping's Beijing. Take a look.
A cryptic drama unfolds in the heart of Beijing, signaling a seismic shift in China's political landscape. Stalin-like purges engulf Chairman Xi Jinping's imperial court. The disappearances of high-profile figures, including ministers, generals overseeing the nuclear program, actors, sportspersons, business leaders, and industry tycoons have cast a shadow over China's political stability. The purge has claimed the high and mighty in China. The most high-profile disappearances, though, were former President Hu Jintao and the recently retired Prime Minister Li Keqiang, who died in a swimming pool. Defense Minister Li Shangfu was investigated for corruption. Former Foreign Minister Qin Gang was ousted among rumors of an extramarital affair. Former Industry Minister Xi Xiaoqing and former Rocket Force leaders General Li Shushang and Zhu Zhangbo have not been seen for the past few months. The unexplained removal of even Xi Jinping's loyalists, handpicked only months before their disappearances, raises questions about the regime's internal strife and stability. Speculation swirls around these vanishings. The official narrative of health issues or crackdowns on corruption masks a more sinister reality. Allegations of political disloyalty and extramarital affairs emerge as potential triggers for investigations, exemplified by lurid tales of former Foreign Minister Qin Gang's rumored affair and its international implications. Coming against a backdrop of economic challenges, an aging society, and a housing crisis, the purge further shines a light on China's domestic woes. President Xi Jinping's consolidation of power and his emphasis on party loyalty contributes to a climate of fear. The purge has sent shockwaves through China's economic and political landscape. The disappearance of senior officials tasked with diplomatic and defense roles adds to the opacity surrounding China's policies, raising concerns for foreign businesses and governments attempting to engage with the country. As Chairman Xi Jinping tightens his grip on power, the disappearance of key figures reverberates globally, posing challenges for foreign engagement and economic stability. The opaque nature of the Chinese political system leaves the world grappling with uncertainties, highlighting the precarious balance between stability and the potential for a far more hostile China on the international stage.
For the last few months, Indian diplomats in the United States and Canada have been receiving death threats from Khalistani separatists. Now, one of these terrorists, Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, posted the names and photographs of these diplomats, literally inciting action against them. Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar denounced this atmosphere of intimidation against Indian diplomats in Canada. He said that death threats to our envoys cannot be taken lightly. Aditya, you broke the story on the murder of an Indian diplomat. What's the latest on this?
Well, the latest is that this is a 40-year-old murder that we are talking about. Many ask that why bother about a killing that happened in 1984? Well, we have to bother because justice was not done. The main perpetrator, the main person who was responsible for pulling the trigger on Ravindra Matre, Indian diplomat, the very first Indian diplomat who was killed on an outstation assignment in Birmingham, UK, is on the run. And we, over the last many months, have investigated this threadbare. This started a few months back where we found a tip-off about the main killer who's been on the run for the last 40 years, and his behavior clearly indicates that something is suspicious. I spoke to over the last 4 months with a lot of his friends, a lot of people who have interacted with him over the last 2 decades, and they say he's not on social media. He doesn't like to be photographed.
But he's alive and well, and
he's
and
alive
in
and
Pakistan.
well, and he tells his friends to not circulate his photographs, not give his contact details out, and he fears for his life. He thinks that either he'll be killed or he'll be arrested or extradited. So clearly, it seems that there is something that is wrong. He's hiding away, and immediately after the murder in 1984, he initially flew to Netherlands and then fled away to Pakistan and now stays in Kotli of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. But the main angle here is that over the last 40 years, neither the UK nor India bothered to bring to justice the perpetrators. And that brings me to the question that if we do not want to send out a message, what kind of a message are you bringing to the people? Today, the Indian diplomats that are being threatened, it's only happening because at that time we gave a long rope and we looked the other way.
Absolutely. In fact, I remember what Vikram Sood, the former RAW chief, had mentioned in one of your documentaries, where he said that nations that want to be taken seriously must have long memories.
Absolutely.
I think he was talking in terms of cases like this, which we suddenly decided to give up on and not investigate. But let's listen into what the High Commissioner to London, Vikram Doraiswamy, had to say about our story.
As far as the record tells us, he was leaving work on that fateful day. He had stopped off to buy a cake for his daughter. It was her birthday. And as he walked out to take the bus that he always took at 5:30 p.m. To get home, he was grabbed and bundled into a car by 4 assailants, who then took him away and held him at detention. And within 3 days, they shot him dead. They shot him at close range with 2 bullets. He was a father, a diplomat, a mild-mannered, inoffensive man doing his work, and he was brutally killed here in the UK. Unfortunately, as far as we are aware, the main perpetrator, the person who was believed to be responsible for shooting Mr. Matre, according to the few who were arrested, remains at large. A couple of others were arrested many years later and were eventually released, sadly, because they were able to make a suitable case, at least that the court found convincing here. Some were convicted, But the longest sentence that anybody paid for the abduction of a diplomat covered under the relevant Vienna Conventions, and for the detention of another person covered under criminal law everywhere in the world, including the UK, and of course for murder, was 20 years. In fact, if you look at the records of the time, from what we are able to trace, the British government was also aware of the fact that at least 4 of them had fled to Pakistan within 2 or 3 days, and they were either in Pakistan or in territory illegally controlled by Pakistan. So yes, it is true that the British knew about it, and they shared it with us, in fact, at that point of time. I think I would like everyone associated with the world of diplomacy, and frankly it's not a large world. Every country in the world has a foreign ministry and a certain number of foreign diplomats. This is a story that we should all feel touched by, because what happened to him could have happened to anybody else, but it didn't. It happened to him, it happened to an Indian diplomat, and it happened in this country. So I do want people to remember, when they think that this is just one incident, it wasn't. It was an incident that has a grave implication for the way in which diplomats are treated and looked after worldwide.
And finally, we leave you with this story celebrating 40 glorious years of the Hyatt Hotel in India. 2 influencers basking in 48 hours of unbridled 5-star luxury. Do watch.
My favorite city, Delhi. Hi guys, my name is Sohani and I am a fashion and lifestyle content creator. I have been born here, brought up here, college, working, everything here. Now let's talk about my friend Bhavi. I'm Bhavi Sehgal, event curator and food and lifestyle influencer, a proud Sardarni from Delhi. We are planning a staycation with Hyatt Regency in Delhi. 48 hours, we are going to be together and explore Delhi in our way. ये Delhi है मेरे यार, बस इश्क मोहब्बत और प्यार.
Literally every major power in the world is gearing up with its own digital currency. And so is India. But India's UPI has taken digital